Hello everyone, my name is Mike Raj. For people who doesn't know me, I'm a junior at Andrews University based in Brain Springs, Michigan. I'm making this video presentation for my herb production practicum class and I'll be talking about hyssop. And this is a general outline. First I'll be talking about hyssop, then general overview. Then I'll be talking about potential plants, then conclusion, reference, and end statement. So what is hyssop? It's a plant that is mentioned in the Bible 9 times in the Old Testament and just 1 time in the New Testament. Hyssop, hyssop in Greek means hysophos and in Hebrew it's isov. It just basically means holy herb. And because it has a general, or I should say just vague reference without specifying any characteristics or traits. Let's say if you want to describe a pomegranate, you would say a pomegranate fruit. But this plant is just referred to as holy herb. And because of that, there has been and still goes on a debate as to which plant is or referred as hyssop in the Bible. Hyssop. Historical, religious and cultural significance related to hyssop. Historical. Mainly it is used as a healing herb. It can be considered as a herb of good fortune because health is wealth, and so this plant possibly has some superstitious beliefs even before even before the even before Israelites or the Hebrew people might have got acquainted with this herb. And this is my educator theory, but I'm not sure. But here you can see if we actually study the superstitious beliefs surrounding Cosmary, you can come to the similar conclusion. Religious. It is important in Hebrew religion. It's also important in Christianity if you study the Old Testament and New Testament, in which it is used for making incense. That incense is used by Christ when for his priestly duties, and without it God would not be able, the incense, without the burning of the specific or the sacred incense, it would not be possible for God to accept it, because it won't make it pleasantable, meaning the prayers offered by his saints would not be pleasantable for God the Father to accept it. So it's very important for the Hebrew religion, and today for the Judaic religion, and for the Christianity as a whole. Catholic religion teaches I believe, a similar importance to this herb. Orthodox Orthodox Christianity also teaches similar importance, and I think Protestantism is mainly lagging on this aspect because they still don't get the significance of this herb. But Ellen White clearly talks about this herb and the importance of the sacred incense that Christ burns or Christ offers to God by doing his priestly duties, so that the prayers of saints can be heard by God the Father. And cultural importance. Hebrew religion and lifestyle, because Hebrew religion actually defined the lifestyle of Israelites and their traditions, so it was Israelites kind of was used this herb for many purposes, I believe, during their traditional ceremonies and and during their religious holidays and during their important holidays too. For example, during Passover, it says in the Old Testament that bitter herbs be used. I believe hyssop is also a bitter herb. Hyssop, potential uses in horticulture and herbal medicine. So these properties and characteristics of the hyssop are deduced based on the scriptures in the Bible. So the first one is antimicrobial. It is antimicrobial because it's used in making a certain kind of cleansing agent mentioned in the Old Testament that is used to cure and purify leprosy and fungal infestation in houses and so forth. So it's antimicrobial, similar, similar to silver metal. It's also similar, I believe, to colloidal silver metal, which can go through capillaries and it can be taken throughout the body, but it's much more benign, I believe. It's a cleansing and purification agent, as I mentioned before. It's also a possibly an antiseptic, meaning it's an anti-shock remedy. If a body, if a body comes or encounters something that is if a body encounters something that is unique and it can't recognize, it might go into shock. For example, there are cases when vaccines, where people have been given vaccines and it has given or induced a state of shock in them, and that there and after the vaccine is I should say given or taken by the person, that person endures or suffers from damages to its to his or her immune system. Especially, it's very important to take into consideration the person's well-being and his or her age, because once if you apply or give a vaccine and the person or the child is too small to be vaccinated, that person or the child may endure um, a shock similar to transplant shocks seen in uh, plants, but much more detrimental to the body, because once that shock is taken by the body, the body might not be able to recover and might sustain injuries. Even psychological effects can be seen. The next one is cure, heal, and aid in gastrointestinal diseases and similar ailments. It is used, I believe it was said by Moses that to take bitter herbs during Passover, so it helps in the air in the digestion of meats. So I believe that hyssop was also a bitter herb, and from the evidence that I gathered, it helps in digestion of fats and proteins, and it's also a source of nutrients, vitamins and minerals. Most herbs, if taken care of properly, the plants before harvest, the plants will contain numerous vitamins and minerals, and even more important are substances which help, substances like antibodies, which help in fight free radicals, in cells, which are very detrimental for the cells and can cause cancer. So this is also helps in restoring a person back to health, and many more unexplored and undiscovered uses. These five I I deduced from the scriptures. Hyssop in the Bible. So this is there are three verses that I actually seem to think that it describes the main characteristics or traits of of the plant hyssop. This is from John chapter 19 verse 29. Now there was set a vessel full of vinegar, and they filled a sponge with vinegar, and put it upon hyssop, and put it to his mouth, meaning Christ Jesus. This was described by John. So this is in New Testament. So things to consider. One thing to consider is height or the tallness of hyssop, because Christ was crucified, and we know by records and by history that crucifixion is one of the most painful experience a person can endure, and that that person will be raised in a log, and that he will be suspended between heaven and earth, and that in order to reach Christ's mouth, the hyssop must have at least been more than 3 feet tall. So that's one consideration to think about. And the second is rocky and mountainous place readily available to the soldier, meaning Golgotha. I believe that's the name of the place, but or yeah, the place that Christ was crucified was mountainous and rocky. So the soldier must have had access to this plant, and this plant must tolerate rocky and mountainous place. If people are not familiar with this, that those places doesn't readily get water, and they are hot and dry, and they have very poor soil. Poor soil meaning not in a sense of without available minerals, but as a statement referring to void of microbial activities. For microbes to survive, there needs to be water. And the last third one, religious one, is a show of mercy by the soldier and with vinegar. So there's one lesson that I learned by reading Bibles, that one who shows mercy deserves mercy, and that's in the Bible. That's not to sidetrack, but that's an important lesson to know. And I'm sorry, but I mixed the slides. And so these three verses can give you clues in order to find the holy herb. And this one in Numbers chapter 19 verse 6 in the Old Testament. And the priest shall take cedar wood and hyssop and scarlet, and cast it into the midst of the burning of the heifer. So it means baby cow who, that is not maimed or unfit in any way, and it is um, red in color, so that it can be acceptable to God, and in no way should it have any ailments or defects whatsoever. So things to consider: cleansing, cleansing and purifying ingredient in the mixture. So hyssop can be considered as a cleansing and purifying ingredient in this mixture. 2. Possibly aids in the absorption of meat odor. So because burning meat produces a smell of unwanted or undesirable odor. So this possibly plant helps in absorption of this particular odor. And hyssop also used to make incense, as I mentioned before. Hyssop also is used in making incense, which is offered to God. Here it says incense, sweet fragrance, or the sacred fragrance that makes the sacrifice acceptable to God, as mentioned by Ellen White. In her writings, she mentions how Christ has become the new high priest and the living temple, and how he has to do his priestly duties in order for his saints, saints and their saints' petitions to be heard by God the Father. And in this third verse, in 1 Kings chapter 4 verse 33, in the Old Testament, it says, "And he spake of trees, from the cedar tree that is in Lebanon even unto the hyssop that springeth out of the wall. He spake also of beasts and of fowl and of creeping things and of fishes." So in this verse, things to consider are: hyssop can grow in walls. Walls may contain bricks, mostly straw and clay in the olden times, and or it can contain stones or both, because in foundation they usually lay stones, and once they have laid the solid foundation, they might lay on top of it bricks, so it's more easier to build. And it means poor soils. It could mean in nutrition sense too, because as you know, clay has water, but it is not available to plants, and it has nutrition, but it is not the plant is not able to absorb into themselves the nutrients, because without water it's so hard for the plant to absorb the nutrients. And the third thing, or the third thing to consider, or the third fact to consider, is the ability to thrive in dead soils and harsh conditions, including cold and heat factors, because as we know, during daytime walls can be very very hot, and at nighttime it can be very very cold. Sometimes depending, because sometimes the roots, depending on the type of wall, the it can actually be cool and hot, but in most cases I believe it follows the weather patterns, meaning if it's or weather patterns, meaning if it's warm in the day and cool in the night, it will be the wall will be warm in the day and cool in the night. But depending on the materials used for making the wall, it can change or vary. And the other thing is, dead means, in this, dead soils mean, or dead soil or soil means void of life or microbial activity, and can be poisonous and detrimental to the plants. So without microbial activity, it's so hard for plant to absorb the essential ingredients or nutrients from the soil, because the soil is basically dead, and you have to spoon feed the plant, so it's kind of hard. So that's the three things or three facts to consider. And this I already discussed. So these are the two possible candidates. I don't want to use the word candidates, but most possible, or two possibilities, that two distinct possibilities. Herb one, marjoram, and for the herb one is the first plant, or the first possibility is wild marjoram or Syrian marjoram, common name. And the scientific name, this is the new scientific name, Majorana syriacum, and this is the older name, Origanum syriaca, and it's in the Lamiaceae family or the mint family. It's native to Mediterranean region, and the distribution is generally woodlands, shrublands, semi-steppe shrublands, and so forth. So here the oregano in Greek it means oros, mountain, ganos, joy. So it generally or it means joy of the mountain. Basically means joy of the mountain. It can reach 60 centimeter in height or 3 feet tall. And the Temple Institute, it's basically a Jewish institution that wants to rebuild the third temple with all the ceremonies and things involved with the temple itself. So the Temple Institute, located in Jerusalem, Jerusalem, I believe. The Temple Institute considered this plant hyssop or the holy herb. So the Temple Institute considered wild marjoram or Majorana syriacum to be hyssop, and this is the plant, wild marjoram. It can grow up to 3 feet tall and 4 to 5 feet in width, I believe. And this is the flowering wild marjoram and more details. So the four characteristics of hyssop: grows in walls, height, native to Israel, ability to absorb orders from the trait or the character that I used from the scripture. And so when you compare this to herb 1, you can see grows in walls, that is unknown, at least for me it's unknown. Height, it's been mentioned that it can grow up to 3 feet tall. It's native to Israel, it is native to Israel. Ability to absorb orders, and because as I mentioned in the earlier part of this presentation, is used in the ceremonies of the Holy Temple, and this is also unknown. So for my conclusion or my statement for the herb 1 is it's most not likely hyssop. So wild marjoram is not likely hyssop, but there's a possibility if if these three factors, the height, growth in walls, and ability to absorb orders, are being clarified or is found out, particularly to these two. So, and herb 2. In herb 2, it's rosemary, or the second possibility for the plant being hyssop is rosemary, and the scientific name is Rosmarinus officinalis. Also, this plant is also in the family of Lamiaceae, or the mint family. It's native to Mediterranean region. Rosemary in rosemary means dew of the sea. For in Latin, dew means ros, and sea means marinus. So dew of the sea. It's also known as herb of remembrance and is used in ceremonies like weddings, funerals, dedication, child dedications, and so forth. Habitat, it grows near sea, in cliffs, rocky places. It's also seen growing in walls, so it's an important thing to remember. Four main characteristics similar to hyssop. It's native to Mediterranean region, can grow more than 6 feet tall, can grow near sea, rocky places, and in walls. And this is personal testimony because I have been using herbs and rosemary and some other herbs, and rosemary can really absorb not only the odor but also other flavors, and it can surely grow more than 6 feet tall if there is no um, if it's more like moderate climate throughout the year. And this is rosemary, and this is rosemary that's grown 6 feet tall, more than 6 feet tall, and this is in California. So This plant needs a moderate climate to grow continuously throughout the year. And the conclusion, and the plant that is most likely hyssop is rosemary. That's my conclusion. And because the four main characteristics of hyssop grows in walls, rosemary does. Height more than 6 feet tall, which is needed for the soldier to reach Christ's lips. Um, Native to Israel, it is native to Israel, ability to absorb odors. Rosemary does, most likely because I haven't tested it, but the other trait or the ability of this plant that I tested is for the rosemary to actually absorb the other flavors of other herbs. So that's the four important characteristics of consideration in considering this plant as hyssop. Another part is appearance also should be a clue because important things are always distinct. That's my belief because as mentioned, cedar of Lebanon is a distinct tree from all other trees. I believe because cedars are a typical plant or a typical tree because cedars can thrive in the harshest of climates, even in the high altitudes, in the low altitudes, in the chilling, freezing winter, and in hot and dry deserts. So appearance also should be a clue, but that's my suggestion. And there's also needs to be a new kind of historians because there are historians for history for all kinds of things. I might have not known this or I might be new to this, but I've not heard or seen or mentioned in the literature anyone who specializes in plant who knows how to use because who knows the great detail about plants, the knowledge and use. So I coined the phrase plant historians because there needs to be individuals who specialize in this so that humanity does not lose the knowledge gained through generations of experience and even divine revelation, as in the case of children of Israel and Bible itself. So the references. Arthur loaned me this Book of Hers by Leslie Bremnes. It's a nice book, but just a condensed form of book. I gained a few insightful details about rosemary and here this site flowers in Israel, which I used for my research on New World Encyclopedia.org, bfaf.org. This site is also very informative. These sites and the Temple Institute. This is the site where this organization is trying to build a new temple. So they need all the ingredients and all the things that they need to build the new temple and continue the ceremonies that they were not able to continue with. And that sums up my presentation. And this presentation is done by Mike Raj. And as I'm studying plants, I came to realize that herb science is necessary for humanity for helping build healthy lifestyle for all humans. And I came also to realize that learning new things is not really enough, but must be a seeker after truth for one who is thirsty will seek water, but one who is not thirsty would not seek water or consume water, even if he's given a full glass of water. So that's another insight from my personal experience. So everyone must be a seeker after truth. And Jesus mentioned uh, this statement in John chapter 8 verse 32, and he said, "And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." And truth to me means gospel, and it is through God's mercy that humanity has been given all this insight, and there is no need for pharmaceuticals or heavy spending, or even for third world nation to receive donations if they have people who have the right knowledge and skills and abilities to help themselves and others who are in poverty and who are in dire straits. So that's my presentation. I hope you learned something new in my presentation, and 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 thanks for watching. Have a nice day. Bye.